Hello, my name is Chuck Wolf. Over the years, I've worked in many different roles, including leading my own leadership consulting company since 1994. I've worked for and with some of the best companies and universities in the world, and have had the opportunity to work with government officials, military organizations, and public and private schools. I'm a leading expert and pioneer in emotional intelligence. Since 2009, I have been a volunteer hosting a radio show I created called The Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. I really enjoy making a difference in people's lives. The show is on award-winning community radio station, WPKN in Bridgeport, Connecticut. In recent years, Simsbury Community Television has been sharing my shows on their station and on YouTube. My sincere hope is that everyone who watches regularly will learn how to use the Emotion Roadmap in their own lives by listening to people who call in to get help with challenges at work, home, and in communities. To learn more, go to www.emotionroadmap.com. If you have a comment or question, email me at cjwolf@cjwolf.com. Thank you and enjoy the show. Listening to WPKN. This is Chuck Wolf, and this is the Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. I'm hoping that all of you are having a good day out there. It's been interesting this past week. I happen to be one of those people unfortunate enough to be caught in the microburst that happened last Friday. Those of you that have seen the news, if you watched NBC News and the local news, my wife and I, my lovely wife Barbara and I, had a chance to be interviewed by NBC because of all the damage on our street and in our home and in our yard. We had damage to our house and in our yard, and fortunately, everybody on the street where we live in Simsbury, Connecticut, we're safe, but nevertheless, it has been a wild ride over the last few days, and I want to thank very much the town of Simsbury, the group that did the clearing of the road. We had some medical issues in our home, and our driveway was completely blocked, and it was so scary. This is a show about taking control of the wheel and driving where you want to be emotionally. Well, we couldn't drive anywhere. We couldn't get out of our driveway. And in some ways, emotionally, that's how it felt too. So we did have a call in to the Simsbury town and told them, hey, look, if it's at all possible, we'd love for you to try and clear our street because people can't get home that were outside of their homes. The street was completely covered with trees. We have a beautiful neighborhood with lots of trees, many of which don't exist anymore. One giant, really healthy oak tree was just uplifted by this storm and pushed down, just picked up and put down. It was a very, very scary storm. I know they're not the same as a tornado. I guess at one point some people thought of them as kind of like mini tornadoes, but sure felt like a tornado. I'd been in the Midwest and seen some tornadoes, but never really experienced anything like this wind up close. The trees in our yard were it seemed like they were twirling around. I think that's why they actually got lifted up and pushed over. So it was a very scary time, and I hope anybody else that may have been impacted by any of this extreme weather is doing okay. And again, I want to thank all the people in the town of Simsbury for working so hard, all the workers for Eversource for getting our power up and running. I had one thing about Eversource I would say is sometimes when you know when you're going to be back up and running, it's great to have an estimate of the time when that's going to happen. But when you keep changing the times, it makes it hard to plan. But of course, these are extremely unusual circumstances, and so rather than be critical, I just suggest that you try as much as you can to figure out how to get right away to down power lines, get right away to trying to repair situations that go down, and if you could possibly find ways to be better at estimating. Problem for us was we had lots of friends offer us the opportunity to come to their homes and stay overnight. We said, well, we think we're going to have power back based on the estimate. And then the estimate would change and be another 6 hours later, another 6 hours later, like 4 or 5 times it changed in 30 hours. So if there's a way to get that right somehow or better, that'd be great. But again, thank you so much to all the workers for Eversource that did get us up and running, back with power in 30 hours. And again, the town of Simsbury did a great job. And I I want to thank the B&M Tree Company, which is a local tree company in our area that came out, and there were like giant pine trees all up and down our driveway, keeping us from being able to get out of our garage initially, but even if we were able to get out of the garage up the driveway. And if you've got any kind of issue where you feel like you might have an emergency and need to get out, that's a very scary time. And the group from B&M, they got to our home around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and the storm had just barely ended, not too much before that. And by 9 o'clock, 6 hours later, they had our driveway not only cleared but clean. So that was a blessing. So all of this is kind of pulling together now, and we're starting to see a lot of the things cleaned up, and most of the down power lines and most of the power has been restored. But what a wild ride! What a wild ride! So I hope everybody's doing okay that might have experienced any of the extreme weather. It's kind of interesting, the metaphor for the show, the emotion roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. Well, what if you can't take the wheel because you can't get out of your driveway? Sometimes emotionally, I think I feel stuck too, and I know some of you do as well. So it's really important to understand that if you do the right things and if you treat people kindly and you try and tap into who you know that might be able to help you. This is kind of one of our daughter's husband's sister was really friendly with the owner of B&M Tree Company, and so we called them. We'd never worked with them before, but they were great. So sometimes you might be able to find ways to think about how do you make yourself whole when things seem to be tumbling around you. So anyway, I wanted to say I hope everybody is okay and doing well. Again, the show's the emotion roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. I have some other news to share that is really positive news for me personally, but I hope for everyone that happens to have a chance to read it. I've got an article published, something around the ultimate employee experience. For those of you who are regular listeners, thanks again for tuning in. For those of you who are new to the show's the emotion roadmap. I have some expertise in this science of emotional intelligence that I share with listeners on the air twice a month on Wednesdays from 12 noon to 1 p.m. And during that time, I entertain phone calls of people who want to call that have something they want to talk to me about. Often I have topics I'll ask you to call in and talk about, but mostly I'm here to help people who are struggling with any of life's challenging situations, where I just talked about my own circumstances from this past weekend, but also there are things that happen internally that aren't about any kind of extreme circumstances outside of your home or your workplace, but are happening right inside where you work and where you live in your community and in your homes that are really challenging. Often there are times when we're challenged by our relationships with people we love. There are times when we're challenged by relationships with people we don't even like, but we have to work with. And so there are ways that I've learned to help people negotiate some of those challenges. And if any of you are, again, a regular listener and waiting to call in, I encourage you to call in early in the show. I'll give the number in a moment. And those of you that might be listening for the first time, I encourage you to listen for a bit. And if you feel comfortable, call me, because what I do in the show is I try to listen really hard, very actively, to who you are and what's going on for you. You don't even have to use your real name, because sometimes it's tough to share something private that you're concerned about and use your real name. If you're comfortable using your real name, all I require is a first name, just so I have something to address you by. And you can make up a first name. If you've got a favorite first name that you'd like to be called, for at least for the time you're talking to me, you can call in and use that. Or you just use your own first name without giving a last name. Or tell me exactly who you are if you don't care. Doesn't matter. The point is, if you call in and you've got something you want some help with, where you feel somewhat stuck, somewhat concerned, not clear how to proceed, you've got some tough decisions to make, you've got a conflict that needs to be resolved, you got anything to do with your life, with relationships, with any of the people in your life that matter, that means something to you. And again, it doesn't have to be somebody you like or love. It can be just somebody that you have to deal with for whatever reason. Or it can be somebody you love. Those sometimes are the most challenging, in fact. So I encourage you to call in, and here's the number. When you call in, I help you using the emotion roadmap so that not only you get help, but everybody gets help. So if you got something that you really want to talk to me about, the number's 203 336 9756. 203 336 9756. And I'll wait a moment to see if anybody's got something to call in about. Now, I doubt that somebody new that's listening is going to call in, but there may be, I know I have a group of regular listeners, and maybe something's on their mind today that they wanted to call and ask for some help with using the emotion roadmap. And if that's the case, again, 203 336 9756. Now, I don't have anybody calling at the moment, so I'm going to go on because I always come in with topics to chat about, to share with you, things that I think you'll find interesting and hopefully helpful in your life. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about today is this paper I'm going to have published. It's going to be published it's called the HR Director. It's targeted to senior human resource vice presidents, directors, people that have a large group of people necessarily that either work for them or they're the sole resource person for a small or medium-sized business in the field of human resources that are looking for ways to empower employees in their organization to benefit their companies in a way that is generates productivity and inspired performance and raises levels of engagement. A lot of times human resource people have all kinds of things on their plates, including things like benefits and compensation, very analytic challenges in those areas. Human resources, in terms of human resource management, performance reviews, performance management, coaching, mentoring, those kinds of things often require this relationship skills. They require emotional intelligence. That's why it's so popular these days and continues to be popular. And that's where I bring my expertise to help organizations. And the paper I'm having published they may change the title a bit, but ultimately the title is The Ultimate Employee Experience. So if you have some thoughts about these topics, I'd love for you to call in and share them with me. One of the things that I wanted to encourage you to think about today is if you are in a workplace, if you're somebody that goes to work every day, maybe a lot of people are remote these days, but still have lots of interactions with lots of other people. Sometimes you're directly in contact with the customers of your organization. This works for profit and nonprofit. It doesn't have anything to do with whether you're a commercial business or not. It has to do with anything that has to do with relationships, really. You might be in a club where you want to use the skills that I talk about. You might be in a community organizer of some type that brings people together to talk about different challenges that the community faces. So there's lots of places where needs arise that have to do with how do we manage conflict? How do we establish a set of norms and everybody respond appropriately to them? And one of the keys that I focus on in my work is this idea of how do we keep people engaged? Engagement is an idea that has been popularized by a group called Gallup. Gallup is an organization that offers a program to help people to raise engagement levels. But mostly what they're known for is the surveys that they do across the world. They go into many of the developed and some undeveloped countries, and they look at organizations and they ask a set of questions and they determine how many people in your organization or in a certain type of organizations, like maybe all chemical companies or all manufacturing companies or service companies, consulting companies, whatever it might be, they're looking at what levels people are engaged at in those companies. And they find pretty consistently, year after year, somewhere around 2 out of every 10 people in most companies across the world are fully engaged. 2 out of 10, 20%. And so in my business, if I'm in a selling mode, I'm talking to someone and I'm saying, what would you think would be possible? What could your organization achieve if you turned that around? And it was 8 out of every 10 employees were fully engaged, working at full capacity for you. What could be achieved? And again, this isn't about profitability unless you're a commercial company. It's about organizations that perform at high levels with an inspired workforce, highly engaged, highly motivated, really people who love coming to work, love contributing to the organization, and focus on getting things done in a quality way, on time, on budget, and if whenever it's possible, exceeding expectations. And they love coming to work because they enjoy the interactions. They enjoy working on something that's meaningful to them. They enjoy being part of a team that's inspired. They enjoy knowing that they can count on their teammates to show up and get done what they need to do in order for the people who are on the receiving end of that worker's productivity. Sometimes you have people who are far removed from a customer, say. People in plants working on lines, helping to build automobiles or other kinds of machinery or vehicles. They aren't close to the customer, but everything they do influences that customer experience. People that don't turn a bolt right, people that don't notice a quality defect and pass it along, people who aren't accountable and continue to make the same mistakes over and over or don't really put their best efforts forward. Remember, Gallup finds only 2 out of every 10 people consistently across the world are working at full capacity for most companies. I say most companies. You might be the exception. You might be in a company where everybody's working as hard as they can, pulling their weight, loves being there. That's the ideal in my mind. And so what helps to create the ideal? That's what I'd like to ask. If any of you have had the experience of being on a team that was highly successful, maybe it's a team you're on right now. We've seen some teams, in sports and in the Olympics recently, some high performance from different teams. What makes for a high performance team in terms of the team members that you have? Team members that you have. I mean, one of the things that's really interesting, those of you who are regular listeners know I'm a sports fan, and one of the things that has happened in the men's basketball team in the Olympics, there are some guards that played for the Boston Celtics that helped to bring the Celtics a championship, this time for the first time, I believe, in 18 years. These particular people are both guards now on the Olympic team. One is a person named Drew Holiday, who won his championship with the Celtics and previously won a championship with the Milwaukee Bucks. And Derek White, a very underrated player who plays at a high level. One of the things that I think is so special, I've been a Boston Celtics and Boston sports fan for many, many years. I grew up in Massachusetts. I've been in Connecticut longer than I've been anywhere else, including Massachusetts. But when you're a kid growing up and you're in the Boston area, it's sort of a religious experience to be a sports fan for many of the major league teams, the Celtics, the Patriots, the Red Sox, the Bruins, and now the Revolution and some other teams, I guess. But the idea of watching your favorite team perform at the highest levels is great as a fan. But the point I wanted to make is Drew Holiday and Derek White as guards, and those of you who are basketball junkies, if you will, people who really know the sport, know that these two were added to the Olympic team in part because of their unselfish, team-oriented, winning matters. How you get there has nothing to do with individual statistics. Holiday and White are outstanding at defending other teams' best players. Holiday and White are exceptional at getting free, but not needing to have the ball in their hands. They're excellent at spotting people and understanding that the people that are the outstanding scorers on the team need to have their ball in their hands when they're free and open and their shots are available to them. It is so nice to watch a basketball team where it isn't about individual performance. For a long time, it was hard to watch the National Basketball Association, because so many players wanted to make the highlight reel in the ESPN, highlights of today's games, so that they do something that is about them as individuals, not about them as a teammate. Now, I talk about the Celtics not because I want to, brag about my team that I cheer for, but I think you saw that in the UConn men's basketball team too, for all of those of you who are Connecticut basketball fans. And we've seen it consistently over the years with the UConn women teams. So we see it in places where maybe more locally, if you're having to be paying attention to the local sports scene, you see it with the UConn teams recently, or the Quinnipiac hockey team over the years, or the Yale hockey team. So again, I'm not talking just about sports, though. What I would love to hear is if anybody knows enough that they feel comfortable sharing about their own experiences, about what makes for a great teammate. I would like to hear that, because a lot of times in organizations, when you ask people how is their organization, how do they feel about it, they'll talk about their supervisor. And all the literature says the most important part of an organization member's experience is the person they report to. But what else really matters, and that doesn't get researched that often, is who do you work with? Do you work with team members that you know are accountable, that really care about their performance and what they're willing to give? What they're willing to give up just to overall to improve the overall team's performance? Do you have any idea that you could share from your own experience that says, this is what I believe makes for a good teammate? Because I think there's a lot of talk about leadership, and I'll talk more about leaders too, but I really want to focus a little bit today, if I could, on what does it mean to be an excellent team member? If you consider yourself an excellent team member, what is it you do that makes you think this is what matters? And has anyone ever said it to you, that you're an excellent team member? And if they did they comment about why they said it? So either about somebody else or about yourself, or, maybe you're proud of somebody that grew up with you. Maybe you're proud of your dad or your mom, or a child that you have that's entered the workforce that people consider to be an outstanding teammate. What is it that they've told you or you know about them that causes that reputation to happen? The reason I want to do this is because sometimes we feel like it's how we feel in a work setting is dependent on somebody else, our bosses in particular. I think a lot of it has to do with how are you showing up? What are the things that you do that make you a good teammate? So I hope we got listeners out there today that are comfortable calling in, because I'd love to share. I always learn a lot when I get phone calls. I mean, it's great if you like to listen to me, and I've gotten, I just did a presentation for a group in Switzerland yesterday virtually. I was really nervous about that too, because I didn't know if I was going to have power or not, but I was teaching them about the emotion roadmap and how to use it in hospitality. This was a group that works in a teaching university that teaches hospitality members. They teach chefs, they teach housekeepers, they teach front desk employees, they teach general managers. They really teach everything that you can imagine that happens inside a hotel or a convention center setting. These people are teaching the skills. And they're really pushing hard to understand how emotional intelligence contributes to that, their ability to teach. And they were all really excited about the emotion roadmap. And they said they really liked listening to me. That was one of the things they said. Well, that's great, but I'd like listening to you. So I would love to listen to you today, to give me a call, anything you got about things that you know about what makes for a good team member, things you've done yourself, things that you've seen, maybe a teammate you have today, maybe somebody from a while back, maybe somebody on a team, in a band, in a club. What makes for good team members? So again, the number to call is 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. I'll also again encourage you, if you have something, I'm going to give you some ideas got somebody. Thank you. Hi, this is Chuck. You're on the air. Who am I talking to, please? Hello? Hello? Sorry, I'm not hearing that. Okay. Well, let's try that again. Oh, let's see. Hi, this is Chuck. You're on the air. Who am I talking to, please?
My name is Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
And I was just listening to you. You're talking about how to be a good team person at work or wherever you are in your life.
Right.
And one of the things I've noticed, because I actually work in a library, and I have to be careful that I show up leading with my heart instead of my ego.
That's a great point. You want to say a little more about it?
Sure. I have noticed when I am in my head and leading with my ego, I don't feel as friendly. I'm unable to take the pause and step back if something is bothering me. It's a good shift. It's a really good thing for me to think about before I go to work every day. The fact that I'd like to lead from my heart, lead from love instead of leading from my ego, which says this needs to go this way or else everything's going to be a failure. It's really it's been a really good shift.
Well, could I ask you what caused you to make that shift?
Well, I don't mind talking about this either. But I'm a member of AA, and doing the 12-step work is something that opened me up to that.
Okay, so that was something that you were dealing with on a personal level, but it also helped you at the workplace to come into the workplace putting your heart first and your ego sort of behind. And I'm sure that for all of us, that's a great lesson, because sometimes our ego gets caught up and we do and say things that we're not happy with after the fact.
Absolutely. And it allows me to listen to my coworkers and just be quiet and not always think that things need to be my way. Well, and 99% of the time, it's better. It's better that I just keep quiet and stay in the flow.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing that, Sarah. I really appreciate you calling in.
Yeah, and this is a great topic. Thank you for speaking about it.
Oh, thanks for saying that too. I really appreciate you, Sarah. Thanks a lot.
Yes.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Okay, I did see that I had another caller, so this is a good chance to call. I'm by myself in the show, so I don't always pick up if I have a second caller when I'm talking to somebody. Obviously, if as just one person, I can't really do that. But if you'd like to call now, it's a good chance. Again, 203-336-9756. Hi, this is Chuck. You're on the air. Who am I talking to, please?
Chuck, it's Leo.
Leo, did you say?
Yes.
Hi, Leo. Thanks for calling in.
No problem. We listened to the show a couple times. Great.
Thank you.
So I've got something that is not quite on your topic, but I was going to call you about it when I jumped in the car before.
Okay, sure.
So the Peter Principle, is that the one where you rise to your highest level, and then is that what the Peter Principle is?
The Peter Principle was this concept that people got promoted past their abilities.
All right. So I'm suffering that right now.
Okay.
I've managed to land a great job, which I'm really happy with. And, I went out on a limb here to go for it, and I got it for whatever reason.
Okay. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. 6-8 months into it. And I just have this feeling that at some point someone's going to come out and say, okay, the gig is up here. You don't have half the skills you need, or, it's a little bit of, it's not imposter. I don't feel imposter. I just feel like, it's a weird feeling. So I just wanted to get your take on it. I can hang up and listen. I'm driving, but I love it. I'm a fortunate person. There was nothing untoward or I didn't go in and change my resume or say anything that wasn't true. But I just feel like my skill set, I don't know,
Well, let me ask you
Allowed
a
them
question while I've got you
Yeah.
on the phone, if that's okay, Leo.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, so one question I have, is there anyone in the organization that you would trust that might serve as, not necessarily a full-time mentor, but just somebody that you could confide in just to kind of check out what you're concerned about in areas where you feel a little vulnerable? Is there anybody you trust enough to do that?
Not yet. It's a little early on. Got a relatively senior position, so I've got to read the tea leaves on that.
Well, I mean, I'm in the business, I have been for a long time, of coaching people. And what you are experiencing, first of all, I think it might help just to know it's not unique to you. You may know that already, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people that enter into a new role, particularly a high level role. And if it's strategic and you've been more of a manager in the past, you have that sense of, I should be fighting fires every day. And instead, I'm being asked to think more broadly, holistically, big picture. And I haven't really done that as much as I wish I had before this role. I don't know if that's part of it, but that often is an experience people have as they go into senior levels.
Yeah, it's more some of the technical skills. I just think that I've been able to get by without, really shoring those up in the past. And I think that they're going to, just see that they're needed more here at Jones. And so to be a good team player, I don't want to come out and say, hey, miss my job and say, I need help with all these things or some of these things. But I just try to figure out some strategies for that. But I'm going to let you talk about it because I got to jump and to get to another point. But if you want to talk about it, that's fine. I can call back another time as well.
Well, let me just say this to you before we leave you. I would say two things. If you are thinking you might not be successful in an area that you're having some self-doubt about, it's really important to let people know at a higher level so that the opportunity to learn doesn't get missed and some mistakes aren't made that are pretty tough to recover from. So I would suggest think hard about where you can share, who you can share with, and what's okay to say in your organization. It's a big deal for people to know that they want to tell people when they're worried about success that they might feel in some areas to get what you need before you get to a point where there's no turning around. That's the best I can say in a minute. Okay?
All right. Thanks very much.
You bet. Take care now. Bye-bye. Okay. If there's anybody else that's got something that they want to share, ask about, help with, and I know that Leo had to go pretty quick, but for those of you that are still listening and thinking about that conversation, one of the people that I've worked with in the past is a fellow named John Caparella. And he and I have done a lot of work together over the years, kind of grew up together. And John's a world-class leader in the hospitality industry. One of the big jobs he's held in recent times is having to be an executive vice president for Madison Square Garden. I'll tell you more about him in a moment. Hi, this is Chuck. You're on the air. Who's calling, please?
Hi, my name is Sonia. How are you?
I'm good, Sonia. How you doing?
I'm doing well on this rainy day. It's cooling off.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm calling about your topic. I've never listened to your program before, but I had it on today, and I was enjoying listening to yourself and your speakers. I just wanted to add, from my personal experience, I work in a school system with special ed children, and what's been positive for me over the years, I've been in the industry many years, is that I've had to really take a good look at myself, and through worship with God, and He taught me not to judge others, and that's been huge.
Okay.
So just taking people as they are and looking for the good in other people has been really helpful. And also just a community, a sense of community. So that's what our school seems to be building, and it seems to be working really well. We have each other's backs.
So being non-judgmental, looking for the good in others, and feeling like you're part of a community that's building. Those are the things that were important for you, Sonia?
Absolutely. Yes.
It's interesting. One of the people that I really respect in the field of emotional intelligence is a woman I've known for a number of years. Her name's Vanessa Druscott. And she's written an article that was featured in Harvard Business Review a number of years ago called Team Emotional Intelligence. And she kind of echoes one of the points that you're making. In a recent conversation with her at a presentation she was making for a group that we both belong to, it's called the Consortium for Research on Emotional Intelligence in Organizations. She said that what she's discovering through her own work, as well as her research, is that one of the most important feelings people have when they want to feel highly engaged at work is that they feel like they belong, that they feel like they're part of something special, that they're a valuable member, and that people value them being part of the group. And they feel really great to feel like I can say I belong here. And I sort of heard echoes of that when you said your school is kind of building a community. That I think that expresses that feeling. Does that sound at all right?
Oh, yes, it surely does. We come from, there's people from all walks of life and all types of, everyone has problems these days, but we seem to be there for one another. Like, say, if someone got sick or has family issues, my school is very supportive of that, and I think that's a big deal. It's kind of like an extension of a family, or maybe for those that don't even have family members close by. So that definitely has a big bearing on, job performance. If you know your home and family needs can be met, then you can build upon that and help others. So, yeah, definitely.
That's also interesting. The work that I'm doing in the paper I'm publishing, it has to do with when we're trying to create this ultimate employee experience. One of the things that I think is so important is that we understand that a worker comes to us, anybody that comes to work every day, is connected to an outer world. Sometimes it's family. They're part of a family. They may be a man or a woman raising a family of children at home, or they may be adult caregivers for their aging parents, or they just may be connected with certain friends and groups that are extremely close to them. And lots of times, outside influences sometimes have an impact on our ability to perform well at work because people we care about are suffering or having problems and difficulties. And the point that I'm making about the ultimate employee experience is when you work for an organization that recognizes it's not just important how you feel, it's also important that your family feels like this is a great place for you to be because they know they care about how you and your family are doing. And this is sort of an extension of focusing on how your employees feel by understanding that they're also connected to an outer world and caring about that as well. And I think the more you care and the more you demonstrate you care and the more supportive you can be, the more people love coming to work every day, being highly engaged and performing at the highest levels possible for you as an organization.
Yes, and just to add on to that, we all have our high and low points in life, and this is what I mean about reaching out to others and forming some type of collective group that care about each other, because when someone else is coming in very depressed or having a family issue, you can just see the care and love from the other people, and it just then they can get through the day, or they know if they need to leave, they can leave, and someone will cover for them. So yeah, just wanted to let you know something positive that was working, because you hear so much negative in the world right now. And if our conversation can help someone, certainly you bringing up the topic reached out to me. I don't usually speak on radio talk shows like this, but I felt like I really wanted to add something.
Well, thanks a million for the call, Sonia. And I'm sure that those special education students benefit from all the things you just talked about and having you as one of their teachers.
Oh, thank you so much. It goes both ways. You have a great day.
You too. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye now.
God bless. Bye.
Bye. So those are important points again. So thanks again for everyone who's calling. And again, if you've got some thoughts of your own that you'd like to share, the number is 203-336-9756. And if you have something you'd like to call and ask about, please feel free to do so. I'll give you a minute in case anybody else is all of a sudden feeling motivated to call. Again, 203-336-9756. Okay, I'll continue talking about John Caparella. He's this friend of mine that, again, had been an executive VP at Madison Square Garden for a time. I think the largest job he held was president of the Venetian and Palazzo hotels in the Sands Convention Center in Las Vegas. He was working and not managing, but leading 10,000 people in that particular role. In any case, I've had him on my radio show a few times and also interviewed him in person at the Venetian. And one of the things that we talked about was this idea of how important it is to recognize and understand for organization members that failure is okay. Failure is not a concern in the sense that we always, when we take risks, are going to fail at times. And what we need to acknowledge is that failure is part of thriving and risk-taking. And we have to make it okay to fail, or no one would be comfortable taking a risk. We were talking, it was interesting. I was asking about how do we build trust in an organization? And he started by talking about this book he had called Fail and Fail Better. So I thought, well, that's an interesting, and to myself, I said, that's an interesting way to start talking about trust by talking about failure. But he made the point that sometimes we are uncomfortable and unwilling, in fact, often really, about telling someone that, hey, I'm not sure I'm going to be on time with this. I'm not sure my end, that's a big part of this project, is going to be done in the time I said it was going to be done. And I know it impacts a lot of other steps in the project. And I want to let you know as early as possible that that's happening. And I asked him, in the conversation we had at the time, I said, John, you and I, because we were both part of ITT Corporate at one time. ITT Corporation was a big holding company, and it included companies like the Sheraton Hotel and the Hartford Insurance Group. I was working in Hartford Insurance at the time I met John, and he was working in the Sheraton. So we've known each other a long time. And when Harold Janine was a brilliant, brilliant mastermind of analytics, not great with relationship skills necessarily, but a brilliant analyst who really ran a company of very different kinds of organizations in ways that made money for a long time, even though they were very, very different companies. But one of the things that happened in that company, and this is what I was talking to John about, I said, John, you and I both grew up in companies where when you told someone that you thought you might fail, you were punished. You didn't get rewarded for coming early and saying, I think I'm going to fail here. A lot of people thought you're just not the right guy then. You're not you could have been the right woman, but mostly was the right guy at that time. So this idea of trying to report failure early on, that you think you might fail as opposed to when you failed, is kind of difficult and challenging, counterintuitive, if you will. And he said, Chuck, he said, you remember when we were working together at a time when he built the convention center down, the Gaylord Convention Center in Orlando, Florida. Look it up. It's a beautiful facility. But it was a hole in the ground when he and I were working together when it first started out. And he said, it's a massive undertaking to build a hotel and convention center from scratch. And he was in charge of that. And he said, one of the people with major responsibility didn't tell me that something was going to fail. And we got to it almost too late. We were able to figure out how to address it in time, so it wasn't catastrophic, but it could have been. And I asked him, why didn't you tell me sooner? He said, well, I kept thinking I could figure out a way to get it done. I didn't want to burden you with it. I know you got so much you're carrying. And he said to him, you got to understand something. Not only am I like the chief exec, he was actually the general manager, but he said, not only am I like the chief executive here, But I'm also the chief resource officer, not human, but chief resource officer, which means that if you'd come to me early, I might have been able to pull other resources, and probably could have in this instance, so that we didn't come close to catastrophe like we almost did here. And that's when he became passionate about, I've got to let people know it's okay to fail, to report failure. In fact, report it early before you fail when there's still a chance to address it. And there's no punishment from me for doing that. Now, for Leo, who called in, I don't know his organization. I don't know if his senior leadership would be like the early group that John and I work for, which you punish the messenger, or we think you're not the right guy if you come and say you're not sure you're going to be successful in some areas. I mean, let's face it, most managers, most leaders at every level want to know they got people working for them that can do what they've asked them to do without coming to them, because they got other stuff on their plate. They got all kinds of priorities they have to address. And you coming to them with your problem, part of them is saying, what am I paying you for? That's the negative side of this. The positive side that John talked about was, if you come to me, we're partners in this. We fail, you fail, we fail together. Let me help you address that. Now I've got another call. Hi, this is Chuck. You're on the air. Who am I talking to, please?
Hello, my name is Donna, calling from Long Island.
Hi, Donna. Thanks for the call.
Hi. So regarding team playership, I think it's important, first of all, good management.
Excuse me, Donna, if you have your radio dial up, I'm sort of getting an echo. If you could turn that down.
I'm sorry, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Good management makes a good team, as in baseball and pro teams and whatnot. I think depending on where you are, what type of business, communication among members and all being on the same page with ideas. And like the other gal said, Sonia, ego aside, my way is not always the right way. So communicating and being on the same page with the way you do things.
It's interesting because sometimes, Donna, I think the idea of sharing ideas is supported when people, this is a very big topic today in management literature, when people feel psychologically safe. And what I mean by that, because I think sometimes psychological safety is used to address certain things that just says, I don't want to hear anybody who thinks different than me. And I don't think that's right. I think that's a problem.
And that's not being a team player, right?
Yeah, exactly. But when you are psychologically safe in the workplace, I think it means that you can share ideas that somebody may not agree with, but you can talk openly about whether you agree or disagree with no hard feelings, because ideas are encouraged and supported to at least be discussed, even if they're not implemented.
Yes, good point. And I think if one is not able to be with others in that respect, that's when you're more isolated and you're better off in your own private business, perhaps. And it's especially in today's world, people have to get along and acceptance of each other.
Right.
To be a team player. It goes from school, when kids are together in school learning, in the classroom, in the gym, whatnot, and through your life. Your family, you have to have a good team support. Two parents, parenting a family of children. The two parents are a team.
That's right, right. And sometimes you might be a single parent or a grandparent or somebody raising kids, and all the people your kids interact with, like you and a teacher of your child, in some ways are a team. Are you and a coach of your child on a team of either in a band or in a sports team or something? Yeah, again, We're all sort of teams in some ways at different times with different people.
Absolutely. Therefore, not to isolate oneself. If you can't be a team player across the board, you're going to be very alone. That's not good, right?
Right. No, I appreciate you sharing that, Donna. Thanks a lot for the call.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Thanks very much. Bye-bye now.
Take care.
Okay, thanks for everybody for all the calls today, for all the things about teams. One of the things that strikes me about being a good team member is this idea. One of the things that seems critical to me is this notion of respect. One of the things that I really care deeply about, and again about the paper that I published and all the work over the years has led me to this point. A lot of years ago, I had the experience of working at Harvard Business School as a research associate in organization behavior. So if you don't know the term, just think about it this way. We all think about individual behavior, about how our spouse is behaving, how we're behaving, how our children are behaving, how our parent is behaving. All these things matter at different levels to us. So when you have a large group of individuals together working for a common purpose, that's organization behavior. That's the idea. It's just a group of individuals having a common purpose working inside some type of group that is organized. So I worked at Harvard Business School in organization behavior, and I was very fortunate. I had a brilliant professor who was absolutely one of the best human beings I've ever met in my life. So one of the smartest, but also one of the best. And he was brilliant. And we was asked by this very large consulting company. If you're in big business, you've probably heard the name McKinsey. McKinsey and Company are a large group, mostly of Harvard Business School grads, of consultants that often work with Harvard Business School CEOs in the workplace all over the world. But in any case, they wanted a transformational model that would help them look holistically at how to influence an entire organization's behavior, particularly around change. And they came to my mentor, Tony Athos, Professor Anthony G. Athos, Tony, and asked him to help their team of people that they had put together to address it come up with a model that they could use to address holistically change in organizations. So Tony did a couple of things. He said, first of all, let's have a model that only has 7 elements because that's all people can remember. And I think he's right about that. And then he said, let's have it all have the same letter because it'll be easier to remember if we give it all one letter. And so if we all agree on that, let's talk about 7 S's. And he said, the heart of the model, you can picture a molecule, if you will, with all the pieces related to each other, all centered on the inside heart of the model. He said, let's make that, and it was goals, but he called it superordinate goals. Now, I had never heard superordinate till Tony introduced it to me, and probably a lot of you hadn't either. But what he said is, these are goals that transcend differences, that bring people together, that get people excited and all pulling in the same direction. So it's not different than the word goals, but it's immensely powerful, compelling goals that cause people to overlook judging one another and differences, all kinds of differences, in order to get these goals done. And then he said, let's surround it with these other 6 S's to look holistically at an organization. He said, there are things that later became called hard S's that he said were like, what's our strategy for accomplishing these superordinate goals? How should we form our organization structure? What should the structure look like? And what should the systems be in place that reinforce the behavior that we're looking for that pushes us forward in addressing these goals? And then he called soft S's skills, style, and staff. Skills, what are the competencies and abilities people need? Staff, how many of what type of organization members? How many human resource members? How many consultants? How many senior leaders? How many supervisors? How many staff in these different areas and all these different departments? And so what kind of staff? And then style, how are we here going to work together? Now, it's a great model, and I'll say more about it another time because my show's coming to its end. But what I want to leave you with is this. Over the years, people found superordinate goals were just too hard for people to understand, even though I hopefully explained it well, that people just didn't get it when the consultants were out there talking to them. So they came up with shared values. And probably a lot of you have heard organizations, and maybe your own organization, say, are really working hard on shared values. And today, I'm putting a stake in the ground saying, today we need to change shared values to shared feelings. The example I love is that, think about this. If you approach an organization member and you say, what are some of the values that you share in this organization that are important to you? You might say respect. So that's a value, and it's good that he or she would know that. But what if I ask then, well, do you feel respected? That's a shared feeling. That's different. And are you respectful? That's powerful. Are you being respected? And are you personally respectful? Shared feelings, I think, is where we're going to all head in the near future, I hope. And I hope I'm the one introducing it to you. Okay, everybody. I want to say thank you very much for listening. Again, you've been listening to Chuck Wolf, radio station WPKN, 89.5 FM, and WPKN.org. Listen to Supported Radio, and we do depend on all of you as listeners. So thanks so much for tuning in, for listening. I'll be back with you next week, same time, 12 noon to 1 p.m. on the first and second Wednesdays of each month. So I hope you all enjoyed the show, and I hope you all have a great day. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.